War doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't care about your rank, your role, or your training. When it arrives, it crashes through the gates of your life like fire burning away everything ordinary. For Arya Kane, war came to Camp Ravenwood on a quiet afternoon. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't trained for combat. She was just an IT contractor hands more used to keyboards than rifles. But when the attack came and the sky rained with bullets, Arya did something no one could have predicted. She rose, she fought, and she became a legend. This is her story. The desert sun burned white over the wire. Dust lifted in endless sheets across Camp Ravenwood, coating the tents, the Humvees, and every throat that breathed it. Arya Kane sat inside the comms shack, a pair of thick-framed glasses sliding down her nose. She was tracing network lines across a monitor, trying to hunt down why the encrypted server kept dropping. Her headphones pulsed with the static chatter of Marines joking outside. Inside, it was quiet. She liked it that way. She was a civilian contractor, 26 years old, sharp-eyed, hair tied back in a messy knot. She wasn't paid to fight. She wasn't paid to bleed. She was paid to keep the digital heartbeat of Ravenwood alive. The Marines teased her sometimes. "Kane, you saving the world with that keyboard?" But they respected her. She didn't complain about conditions. She worked late, and she never backed down from solving a problem, no matter how tangled. Still, she often wondered if she belonged here at all. A base in hostile territory in the middle of a war zone. What was she doing here? That thought haunted her. But the answer would come in a storm of gunfire. The first sign wasn't sound. It was vibration. A tremor in the ground, so faint she thought it was a generator kicking on. Then came the whistle. A mortar slammed into the far wall of Camp Ravenwood, detonating in a burst of sand, metal, and flame. The windows rattled. Sirens screamed. Arya froze in her chair. For half a breath, she couldn't move, couldn't think. Then the world erupted. Gunfire, screams. Orders barked through radios. She dove under the table as another blast tore through the comms shack wall. The server rack toppled, sparks spitting across the floor. Through the haze, Arya heard them. Shouts in a language she didn't understand. Footsteps. The enemy was inside the wire. Her lungs seized. She wasn't trained for this. She had no rifle, no body armor, just fear hammering in her chest. Then she saw it. A Marine's M4 dropped near the door, half covered in dust. Blood still wet on the stock. Her hands shook as she reached for it. The rifle felt alien in her grip. Cold, heavy, alive. She'd fired at a range once, years ago. But this wasn't practice. This was survival. The door burst open. 2 armed insurgents stormed inside, rifles raised. Arya didn't think. She didn't plan. Her body just moved. She squeezed the trigger, and the weapon bucked in her hands. The first man dropped. The second staggered, shocked that a civilian had fired. She adjusted her aim and shot again. Silence fell. Acrid smoke curled in the air. Her ears rang with the deafening echo. Her chest heaved. She stared at what she had done. Her hands were still trembling, but something inside her shifted. A line had been crossed. There was no going back. Chaos consumed Ravenwood. Insurgents swarmed through the breach, gunfire rattling like hail on metal. Marines fought back, but they were outnumbered, cut off. Arya moved, not because she wanted to, but because standing still meant dying. She followed the sounds of battle, rifle clutched to her chest. Every corner was a choice: hide or fight, and again, she chose fight. At the motor pool, she found 3 Marines pinned down, wounded. She crawled into the dirt beside them, firing from behind a Humvee. "Who the hell are you?" one of the Marines shouted. "A contractor," Arya spat back. "Just shoot." They fought side by side, trading fire. Arya's hands steadied. Her shots grew sharper, cleaner. She wasn't a soldier, but she was learning fast every second, a brutal teacher. When an RPG slammed into a fuel truck, igniting a tower of fire, Arya helped drag the wounded out of the blast zone. Her arms burned, lungs raw with smoke. But she didn't stop. At one point, cornered by 3 insurgents near the barracks, she ducked behind a sandbag wall and tossed a grenade she had scavenged from a fallen Marine. The explosion tore through the night, and when the smoke cleared, Arya was still standing. By the end of the firefight, the count was staggering. 20 enemy combatants had fallen in her path. A contractor, just a civilian, had held the line. Dawn rose gray and thin over Camp Ravenwood. The base was scarred, smoking, bodies covered under tarps. Marines sat in silence, eyes hollow from the night's horror. Arya stood among them, her clothes torn, face streaked with grime. She still clutched the rifle, though her hands were blistered. A young Marine approached her, shaking his head in disbelief. "Ma'am, you saved us." Arya didn't know what to say. She wasn't supposed to be a hero. She was just supposed to keep the comms alive. But something had awakened in her. Later, in the after-action report, commanders would argue over her role. Some called her reckless. Others called her irreplaceable. But one thing was undeniable. Without her, Camp Ravenwood would have fallen. Weeks later, Arya Kane made a decision that shocked no one who had fought beside her. She walked into the Marine recruiting office. No glasses, no messy bun, no hesitation. She signed her name on the dotted line. The civilian contractor was gone. In her place stood a woman forged by fire, hardened by combat, and ready to serve. Boot camp tested her. Training broke her down, rebuilt her. But nothing could scare her anymore. She had already faced the worst night of her life and survived. The Marines didn't just gain another recruit. They gained someone who had already proven what courage meant when the odds were impossible. Arya Kane became not just a Marine, but a symbol. Proof that sometimes, when war crashes into ordinary lives, extraordinary warriors are born. Courage isn't something you're handed. It isn't stitched into your uniform or earned with pay. Courage is the choice you make when the world explodes around you and you refuse to back down. Arya Kane was never supposed to fight, but when the night came, she fought harder than anyone could have imagined. And in doing so, she changed her fate forever. This is Truth on Twists, where real stories break through the noise, and where courage lives in the shadows of the ordinary. If her story moved you, share it. Subscribe for more untold truths, and join us as we shine a light on the moments the world needs to remember. Because sometimes, the truth is stranger and stronger than fiction.